Something strange is happening in Las Vegas. Something no one thought was possible. Behind the glowing neon, behind the music, behind the crowds that still pour in every weekend, the foundations of the Strip are starting to crack. Entire casino floors sit empty. Staff whisper about sudden layoffs. Guests walk through once bustling resorts and feel a silence they can't explain. And the numbers? They're worse than anyone imagined. 9 of the Strip's most iconic casinos. The giants that built Vegas are now quietly collapsing from the inside out. Not because of one disaster, but because of 1,000 tiny fractures no one noticed until it was too late. The places that once promised excitement, luck, and endless possibility now hide a different story. Darkened wings, soaring debt, failing loyalty programs, and odds so ruthless even devoted gamblers have walked away. And yet, most visitors have no idea. They still take their pictures, buy their drinks, and check into hotels that may not survive the next decade. But you're about to see what they don't. From luxury palaces losing their high rollers, to budget resorts running on fumes, to one casino in particular, number 7, where the warning signs are so severe that even locals say, stay away. This is the hidden side of Las Vegas, the part the billboards don't show, the part the corporations don't talk about. Welcome to the truth behind these 9 Las Vegas casinos that are collapsing, a story that will change the way you see the Strip forever. The Mirage. The Mirage was once more than a casino. It was a symbol. A place where the roar of the volcano echoed across the Strip and pulled crowds in like a magnet. Families lined the sidewalks, couples stopped mid-conversation, and tourists planned their nights around that fiery burst of magic. Today, that same volcano sits silent, fenced off and forgotten. What was once a landmark is now a reminder of a property caught between what it used to be and what it is struggling to become. The transition to hard rock was supposed to be bold and transformative. Instead, it has become a long stretch of uncertainty. Guests walk through the doors, expecting the Mirage they remember or the hard rock they were promised, and find neither. The casino floor feels half alive, half asleep. Certain areas hum with energy, while others sit dim and unused, leaving visitors wondering where the heart of the resort actually is now. Renovations meant to revitalize the rooms and amenities sit pause, delayed by rising construction costs and shifting plans. Carpets show the wear of a property waiting too long for its next chapter. Rooms that once felt luxurious now feel like pieces of a past era that hasn't been allowed to fade or evolve. Everything feels suspended, not old enough to be classic, not new enough to be exciting. Behind the scenes, the uncertainty takes an even deeper toll. Employees who built their careers around the Mirage now face shifting schedules, unclear timelines, and the quiet worry of what comes next. Some have already left, seeking stability elsewhere. Others hold on, hoping the transformation eventually brings renewal instead of closure. And guests feel it too. Weekday occupancy continues to slide as more visitors choose properties that feel whole, stable, and fully functioning. A casino thrives on energy, and the Mirage is struggling to generate it. Its collapse isn't loud, it's not dramatic, it's quiet. A fading pulse rather than a sudden shutdown. The Mirage isn't gone, but it's slipping. And unless the next chapter arrives with clarity and purpose, this once iconic resort may become just another memory on a Strip that never stops moving forward. 2. Tropicana. The Tropicana was once one of the Strip's sunniest symbols, a warm, retro gateway into old-school Vegas charm. For decades, its glowing white towers and palm-lined pool greeted millions of visitors, looking for something simple, familiar, and inviting. Today, that brightness has vanished. What remains is an empty shell behind fences, silent hallways, and the uneasy feeling of a chapter closing without a clear beginning to the next. The property has been completely shut down, not for renovation, but for demolition. A full teardown to make way for the future A's Stadium. In theory, it sounds like progress. In reality, it has left thousands of employees without jobs, displaced in a moment when the Strip itself is tightening hours, reducing shifts, and feeling the weight of its own decline. For many workers, the Tropicana wasn't just a place to clock in. It was a community. And the closure felt abrupt, almost like a light switch flipped off without warning. With the casino closed and gaming halted, the property now generates zero revenue, becoming a financial sinkhole during a time when operators need every dollar. Costs still accumulate: security, land maintenance, legal obligations, but nothing flows back in. The longer construction delays stretch, the deeper the loss grows. Visitors passing by on Las Vegas Boulevard share their shock online. Photos of fenced-off entrances, boarded windows, and empty parking lots circulate across social media. What used to be a cheerful building now looks abandoned, creating a visual reminder of uncertain times on the Strip. Industry analysts voice an even more troubling concern that the land could sit empty far longer than planned. Rising construction costs, disputes over stadium financing, and shifting city priorities raise real questions about when the project will actually begin. What was meant to be a smooth transition is now surrounded by delays and budget doubts. The Tropicana's demolition isn't just the end of a casino. It's the pause of a legacy. For now, the corner that once held decades of memories sits silent, waiting for a future that still doesn't have a clear timeline. 3. The Venetian. The Venetian was once the embodiment of modern Vegas luxury, a palace of marble corridors, gondola rides, and non-stop convention energy that fueled every restaurant, every pit, every suite. Its entire business model was built on volume, thousands of business travelers filling its towers week after week, spilling into the casino floor after long meetings, creating the steady rhythm that kept the resort thriving. Today, that rhythm has quieted, replaced by long gaps in foot traffic and the uneasy silence of a property waiting for momentum that hasn't returned. The Venetian's dependence on convention travelers has become its greatest vulnerability. Post-pandemic, convention attendance is down. Hybrid events are common, and many companies no longer send massive teams to Vegas the way they once did. Hallways that used to buzz with name badges and rolling suitcases now experience slow days that would have been unthinkable a few years ago. Without that foundation of guaranteed weekday business, the entire resort feels the strain. Then on top of that is the enormous debt from the property's recent ownership challenges. Billions owed, rising interest costs, and tighter capital budgets mean renovations are delayed. Hiring freezes extend longer, and cost-cutting becomes the default strategy. It shows. Guests notice fewer servers in restaurants, longer waits at check-in, and casino pits operating with fewer dealers. What was once known for near-flawless service now feels understaffed and overextended. Even the high-end suites, once the crown jewels of the Venetian, no longer bring in the returns they used to. Upgrades don't convert the way they once did because travelers are more price-sensitive, and weekday occupancy sits too low to support premium pricing. Without convention volume to fill the gaps, the suites become more of an expense than a revenue driver. Meanwhile, the decline in high-end Asian VIP traffic has cut deep. For years, that segment was the backbone of baccarat tables and luxury spending. Now, geopolitical changes, travel restrictions, and competition from Asian casinos have pulled those players away. The Venetian hasn't collapsed, but it's undeniably strained. What was once a golden engine of non-stop traffic now feels like a resort caught between its grand past and an uncertain future. Fighting to regain the momentum it once took for granted. 4. The Palazzo. The Palazzo was built to be the quieter, more refined sibling of the Venetian, a sanctuary of polished marble, oversized suites, and high-limit tables where luxury didn't need to shout. For years, it thrived on that energy. Baccarat players filled its salons, the Grand Canal shops echoed with high-end brands, and its guest list leaned heavily toward travelers seeking an elevated Vegas experience. But today, that once effortless sense of prestige is slipping, replaced by empty walkways, dark storefronts, and a softness in foot traffic that feels impossible to ignore. The decline in baccarat play has struck the Palazzo especially hard. While its sister property faces similar challenges, the Palazzo's premium identity meant it leaned more heavily on high-limit guests, especially international VIPs. Now, those players are fewer, playing less, or choosing other markets entirely. The salons that once buzzed with quiet intensity now sit partially empty during prime hours, a stark contrast to their former vibrancy. Compounding the problem is the slow erosion of the Grand Canal shops. Several luxury retailers have closed their doors, unable to survive the drop in high-spending tourists. Their absence leaves visible gaps, empty windows, covered storefronts, and long stretches of hallway where foot traffic barely trickles. It creates a subtle but undeniable shift in atmosphere. Luxury relies on energy, and empty spaces break the illusion. Inside the suites, the wear is starting to show. The Palazzo once boasted some of the largest standard rooms in Vegas, but without scheduled renovation cycles, they now feel more dated than distinctive. Softer carpets, aging fixtures, and less modern amenities reveal the financial pressure beneath the surface. The shift toward lower-value convention guests only accelerates the erosion of its premium identity. Where once executives and high rollers dominated the guest demographic, now large groups of budget-conscious travelers take their place. The effect ripples. Less spending on dining, fewer upgrades, fewer casino hours. With midweek occupancy falling, the resort has quietly begun closing sections of its gaming pits. Lights dim earlier. Tables sit unused. Dealers rotate through shorter schedules. The Palazzo hasn't fallen, but its glow is fading. And without a renewed commitment to luxury, it risks becoming a shadow of the elegance it once effortlessly embodied. 5. Wynn Las Vegas. Wynn Las Vegas has always stood apart, a polished world of elegance, exclusivity, and quiet confidence. For nearly 2 decades, it represented the pinnacle of the Strip. Immaculate rooms, lush gardens, world-class dining, and the kind of service that made guests feel like royalty. But even icons aren't immune to shifting tides, and today, Wynn finds itself navigating a reality it was never built for. 1. Where the guests it relied on most simply aren't coming back. For years, Wynn's business model revolved around international VIP gamblers, particularly from China. These players filled baccarat salons, booked multi-$1,000 suites, and anchored the resort's premium revenue streams. But geopolitical tensions, travel restrictions, and mainland economic pressures have dramatically reduced that flow. What used to be a steady stream of high-limit players is now just a trickle, leaving once busy VIP rooms eerily quiet. At the same time, Wynn's operational costs, always among the highest on the Strip, continue to rise. Maintaining flawless landscaping, Michelin-level kitchens, and premium service requires deep pockets. To compensate, nightly rates have surged to new highs, reaching levels many guests refuse to pay. This has widened the gap between what Wynn offers and what the average visitor can afford, creating a sense of distance rather than desire. Behind the scenes, the strain is even more visible. Workers quietly report reductions in fine dining staffing, shortened hours in nightlife venues, and increased pressure to do more with less. These subtle compromises, once unthinkable in a Wynn environment, signal how far the ripple effect has reached. On the casino floor, table minimums climb higher, pushing out mid-level players who once filled the resort with steady energy. Even the slots feel quieter, and midweek gaming pits often sit half full, a rare sight for a property that once thrived daily, not just on weekends. Perhaps the clearest sign of trouble is the pause on Wynn's ambitious expansion plans. Over $1 billion in development frozen as cash flow projections weaken. For a company known for constant reinvention, this stall speaks volumes. Wynn Las Vegas isn't collapsing, but it's undeniably shifting. And in the world of luxury, even small cracks can signal the beginning of a major transformation. 6. Encore. Encore was designed as the refined extension of Wynn, a sanctuary of elegance, privacy, and indulgence. For years, it was the quieter sibling. The place where high-limit players slipped into private salons, and guests enjoyed spa treatments and fine dining away from the louder rhythm of the main Strip. Yet today, that silence feels different. It no longer speaks of exclusivity. Instead, it reflects the stillness of a resort grappling with a profound slowdown. Encore's reliance on baccarat made it especially vulnerable. While Wynn has seen declines, Encore's drop-off has been sharper and more visible. Once busy high-limit rooms now echo with emptiness on weekdays, with only a handful of players occupying seats that used to be fought over by VIPs. The flow of international high rollers, the backbone of Encore's premium business, has thinned to levels the property hasn't seen in over a decade. As traffic slows, the property has been forced to make quiet cutbacks. Several premium lounges now remain closed during weekdays, their doors locked and lights off. What used to be relaxing, buzzing refuges for upper-tier guests now sit unused, a reminder that demand simply isn't there. High staffing costs, once a point of pride for delivering flawless service, have become unsustainable. Workers report reductions in spa hours, fewer valet attendants. And scaled-back in-room dining services, each cut chips away at the very DNA of what Encore promised: seamless luxury. Boutique shops inside the resort are feeling the strain as well. With fewer affluent guests browsing and buying, retailers have reported double-digit declines in revenue. Some brands have reduced inventory. Others are quietly preparing exit strategies. Perhaps the most painful symbol of Encore's struggle is the deserted VIP salons. High rollers increasingly prefer online platforms where bonuses, privacy, and accessibility outweigh the allure of physical tables. The shift has left Encore's prestige gaming rooms sitting still, elegant, polished, but empty. Encore isn't collapsing, but its glow has dimmed. The resort that once thrived on hushed extravagance now faces a kind of silence it never intended. The quiet of fading demand, shifting habits, and a luxury market moving in directions it can no longer fully control. 7. Resorts World. Resorts World arrived on the Strip with the weight of expectation. A $4.3 billion investment, the first brand new mega resort in more than a decade. It was meant to symbolize a new generation of Las Vegas luxury. Shiny, modern, tech-forward, a beacon for the future. But a few years later, that shine is dimming under the strain of numbers that never match the hype. Instead of becoming the next Vegas powerhouse, Resorts World has become one of the Strip's most expensive lessons in how unpredictable the new era of tourism can be. The massive build-out was designed to compete with giants like the Venetian, Wynn, and MGM Grand. Instead, it has struggled to reach even the lower end of its revenue projections. Nightclubs open with fanfare, then quietly fade out months later. Restaurants rotate endlessly, trying to find a formula that works in a market that feels oversaturated and price-sensitive. Each closure or rebranding chips away at the resort's image, leaving guests wondering why so many concepts can't seem to stick. Location is another silent enemy. Despite its size and glowing LED tower, Resorts World sits at the far north end of the Strip, a stretch that's historically struggled with foot traffic. Tourists who cluster around the Bellagio fountains, Caesar's Palace, and the Cosmopolitan rarely make the walk. Even with rideshares and monorails, the energy simply doesn't flow naturally to that part of the boulevard, leaving the casino floor unusually quiet for a resort of its scale. Convention bookings have also fallen short. With heavy competition from established giants like Mandalay Bay and the Venetian, Resorts World hasn't become the corporate magnet it hoped to be. Without strong midweek traffic, the resort leans heavily on weekend visitors, a model that simply doesn't support its massive operating costs. Behind the scenes, the strain is clear. Labor disputes, lawsuits, and internal staffing issues have added pressure to margins that are already thin. Workers describe unpredictable schedules, department restructuring, and constant pressure to reduce costs without compromising service. Resorts World isn't failing, but it is undeniably struggling. For a property built on dreams of dominance, the hardest truth is this: Las Vegas is changing, and even billions can't guarantee a winning hand. 8. The Link. The Link was once one of the Strip's most energetic playgrounds. A bright, youthful destination made for travelers who wanted Vegas without the luxury price tag. Its promenade pulsed with energy, music echoed through the walkways, and the high-roller Ferris wheel drew crowds day and night. For years, it thrived on that momentum. But today, the very audience that made the Link successful is slipping away, leaving behind a resort struggling to hold on to its identity. Younger visitors, once the lifeblood of the Link, are choosing different experiences. Downtown casinos offer cheaper drinks, looser slots, and more authentic energy. Off-strip properties attract value seekers with bigger rooms and better prices. Even online casinos have become more appealing to younger gamblers looking for entertainment without the Vegas price inflation. As that demographic shifts, the Link feels increasingly empty during times it once dominated. The Link's promenade, designed as its core attraction, has become a sign of the slowdown. Once filled with packed restaurants and vibrant retail, it now suffers from declining sales and several quiet storefronts. Foot traffic no longer flows the way it used to, and retailers feel the pressure of high rents with fewer customers to serve. When the promenade loses energy, the entire property loses its heartbeat. Inside the casino, the challenges are clear. The floor is crowded with low-value slot machines, densely packed, loud, and designed for budget gamblers. But this setup creates a ceiling on profit. Casinos depend on a mix of mid-level and high-level spending. And the link simply doesn't attract enough of it. The result is long hours of operation with relatively low returns. Guest reviews reveal another problem. Rooms that feel dated, thin-walled and noisy. Travelers complain about hallway noise, older furnishings and inconsistent maintenance. These impressions drag down ratings and make it harder to compete with nearby properties that offer more modern designs. Adding to it all, rising Caesars corporate fees cut further into operational flexibility, leaving managers with fewer options to refresh the experience or invest in improvements. The link isn't disappearing, but it is drifting. A resort once defined by youthful energy now faces a quieter reality. Unsure how to reclaim the spark that made it matter. 9. Harrah's Las Vegas. Harrah's Las Vegas has always been one of the Strip's most approachable resorts. A familiar, budget-friendly option for travelers who didn't need luxury to enjoy the city. For decades, it thrived on accessibility. Guests walked through its doors, knowing they'd find affordable rooms, lively table games, and a dependable atmosphere. But today, Harrah's stands at a crossroads, squeezed between rising competition and shrinking margins, struggling to hold on to the very guests that once made it successful. The heart of Harrah's customer base has always been comp-driven players, low to mid-tier gamblers who return frequently because they feel rewarded. But as the Caesars Rewards program tightens, these guests no longer enjoy the benefits they once did. Fewer free nights, reduced point value, and stricter thresholds for perks have made loyalty feel more like a transaction. And when loyalty doesn't feel rewarding, guests drift. Often toward off-strip casinos that offer better odds, looser slots, and warmer hospitality. That shift is cutting deep. Lower-tier gamblers, once the backbone of Harrah's daily action, now choose locals' favourites like the Orleans, South Point, and Station casinos. Their machines pay better, drinks cost less, and the atmosphere feels more personal. It's the kind of competition Harrah's can't simply outprice, and with shrinking margins, outspending isn't an option either. Cost-cutting efforts are visible across the resort. Several dining venues have quietly closed or reduced hours, leaving guests with fewer choices and longer waits. These aren't the flashy, headline-grabbing closures seen at luxury resorts, but cumulatively, they erode the overall experience. A property built on convenience becomes less convenient with every shuttered restaurant and shortened schedule. The rooms, once comfortably simple, now feel outdated. Carpets, fixtures, and furnishings show their age, and yet renovation funds remain delayed as Caesars prioritizes higher-value properties. This leaves Harrah's caught in a cycle where the lack of upgrades hurts revenue, and the lack of revenue delays upgrades. Weekends still bring life, crowds, energy, and a glimpse of the old Harrah's charm. But midweek tells the real story. Occupancy dips to dangerously low levels, hallways quiet, casino floors half full. Harrah's isn't closing, but it is being quietly outpaced, losing ground in a city where even budget-friendly must still feel compelling. Without a reset, the gap may only grow wider. And there you have it, the truth hiding behind the neon. 9 Las Vegas casinos, each with their own cracks, their own warnings, and their own stories the Strip doesn't want you to notice. What looks bright on the outside is changing fast behind closed doors. And for millions of visitors, that reality is only just starting to surface. But now that you've seen the full picture, the empty floors, the vanished VIPs, the skyrocketing debts, and the pressure that could push entire resorts past the breaking point, one question remains. What do you think happens next? Does Las Vegas recover and reinvent itself like it always has? Or are we watching the beginning of a collapse the city can't escape this time? I want to hear your take. Drop a comment below saying, Vegas will rise if you think the Strip will bounce back, or Vegas will fall if you believe these signs are only the beginning. Your comment tells me you watched until the very end, and it helps this video reach more people who love deep dive content like this. If you enjoyed this breakdown, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next investigation into what's really happening behind the lights of Las Vegas. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay curious and stay safe out there on the Strip.